Hi, welcome to Life in a Bottle, Season 3, Episode 14. I am Kyle, and this is the 2019 Subject to Change Party Monster, Sparkling Rosé of Petite Sirah. Yes, it is called the Party Monster, and it's pretty much a party right from the time that you flip off that crown cap. Before we get too far into the wine, we're going to talk about where we are, as usual. We are in North America this time, in the United States, in California, in Mendocino County, more specifically in the Redwood Valley AVA, and most specifically in the Upton Vineyard. Alex Pomerantz is the man behind the magic here at Subject to Change Winery. We've been working with these guys since their inaugural vintage in 2017. Alex has been making wine for a while, but kind of really wanted to launch his own project, where he was able to focus on making natural wines with zero intervention. He's not using any sulfur at any point in the process of his winemaking. And he's sourcing these wines solely from vineyards that are practicing organic or biodynamic farming, and certified, I should say, in those farming techniques. And he really wants these wines to be as close to the earth as they can be. And they really are, but they're still so beautiful and lively and fresh and they're perfect. This wine especially is just so much fun. We'll get a little bit more into the glass in a minute here. But Alex wanted to make this wine originally from Old Vine Zinfandel. Unfortunately, or as it turns out, fortunately, a deal fell through, and one of his other farmers said, hey, I've got this small plot of organic Old Vine Petite Sirah, which is another nod, just like Zinfandel, to California's super rich viticultural heritage. He says, why don't you use that? And Alex took it and hit the ground running and never looked back. And I am super glad he did, because this stuff is killer. To talk a little bit more about where the wine comes from, Redwood Valley AVA is at a place in Mendocino County where it's right on the other side of the coastal range from the Pacific. There's just a tiny little gap in the range that allows this beautiful breeze to come through. So they get that diurnal shift we've talked about before, where you get nice, beautiful, warm, sunny days and crisp, cool nights. So we get long, slow, even ripening, gradual ripening, and a ton of complexity comes through in the grape. Alex said when I talked to him this morning that this wine was made to be a little bit less nuanced and a little bit more just kind of in-your-face fun, and it is that for sure, but there's still some pretty significant nuance to it. There's some things happening in here that you don't get in your average sparkling wine. So once they harvest this Petite Sirah, they get it to the winery, and they're allowing it to kind of macerate in whole clusters for a little while before they press it and run it off in a stainless steel tank where it finishes fermenting, or almost finishes. They super chill that wine when it's got just a little bit of residual sugar left. So that makes the yeast go dormant before it can ferment all the sugar out. So there's just enough left to finish fermenting in the bottle and add that beautiful spritzy carbonation we get from Petnats like this. As you can see, the wine is just a little bit cloudy, just a little hazy. There's not really a significant amount of sediment or anything, but it's bottled completely unfined and unfiltered. So this is kind of as close as we can get to what's in the barrel. He's bottling this again without any sulfur whatsoever, so that yeast can come to life again after it's been bottled and capped and finish that fermentation and cause that carbonation. So we get just a little bit of beautiful mousse and a little bit of that carbonated spritz and prickle as well. To dive into the glass, Alex said that this wine was made to be a little bit less nuanced, as I mentioned, but it's got a lot to say. There's some beautiful, just ripe electric berry to it, some red raspberry, some blackberry for sure. There's a touch of earthiness to it, and you can get almost just a tiny little whiff of mineral that comes through on the nose. I can tell you it definitely comes through on the palate for sure, but let's get into that. So this is a perfect gateway drug of natural wine, because it's definitely a natural wine and it tastes like a natural wine, but it's not one of those natty wines that you might hear about that are super mousy or animal or funky. There's really not a lot of funk to this wine. It's just an absolute killer patio pounder, to quote Cody. People pleaser for sure. This is one of those wines I would be hard pressed to find something not to serve this wine with. Cheese board, charcuterie plate for sure. Easter ham, lamb. Having this by the grill, perfect. Poolside, even better. Porch, that's where you'll find me, I think, this weekend. This is definitely going to be on my Easter table. What I should mention is that this wine is only 11.5% alcohol, or 11.8% alcohol. And it's got some beautiful acidity too, so that makes it the perfect aperitif. But as I said, you can kind of have this whenever you'd like, and I don't think anybody would think less of you. I certainly wouldn't. So Alex, cheers, crushing it. I can't wait, spoiler alert, to get into another one of your wines on next week's episode of Life in Bottle. Cheers, guys.